Welcome to Wine Soundtrack USA. Listen to the passion with which producers narrate their winery and their world. In 30 answers, discover their stories, personalities, and passions.
Hello, friends and listeners of the Wine Soundtrack podcast. This is Kim Cashmore, and today you are going to experience the magic behind Nancy Gonzalez. Nancy is the founder and winemaker of Ulloa Cellars in Paso Robles, California, and we are currently sitting in her warm, cozy winery right now. So let's get into it. First of all, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so Nancy, to kick us off, will you tell us a little bit about your winery, where you're located, and the types of wines that you make?
So I am based in Paso Robles. I do specialize in producing obscure whites because that's what I like to drink. So I want to stay true to making wines that I'll be able to share with people and share the vision of what I like and what I have discovered in the area. I specialize, like I said, in obscure whites. Grüner Veltliner is my signature. I also make Semillon, Albarino, Verdejo, Pinot Blanc, and more to come this harvest. So I'm just super excited to be able to make wine that people want to drink and to educate people about these grapes and also about the area.
Oh my gosh, awesome. Yeah, I forgot to mention that it was obscure whites. That is truly, I think, obviously the best way to describe it, but it's really interesting because I think your wines have a lot of magic to them, and part of that is because, you have these great varieties that you probably really have to tend to, and you really have to nurture as you bring them in and turn them into wine, and there's a lot of magic and intention that goes behind that. We're sitting in your tasting room right now. It's beautiful. There is some pink neon signage. There is crystal chandeliers, there's gold frames. It's just gorgeous. I love it. And crystals. We'll dive more into the crystal thing when we get to just talking about the wine that we have sitting here, but give us a little overview of, your brand and also the crystal part of this whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think that one of the funnest parts of building a business, specifically a wine brand, is being able to incorporate things that I love and care about. And so I realized this freedom very early on, and I have been able to incorporate things that I do care about and that I enjoy. And one of those things is metaphysics, whether it is, through witchy rituals, crystal healing magic, energy work, positive affirmations, and really all that started, I've been a big fan of spirituality and of energy work for over a decade, but in the cellar, how it started is when I made my first vintage of wine. My wine, I call them my babies. And so I would be super worried about them when I was at home because I was like, they're there by themselves. Are they doing okay? I want them to know that they're loved. And so I started bringing some of my crystals into the cellar and putting them on top of my barrels to protect the barrels. And later on, I, started to incorporate other things that are also very spiritual, I would say, into the winemaking, whether it is bringing the crystals to infuse the wines with the energy during fermentation and aging, to adding names of different goddesses from all over the world and different cultures on the barrel. So each barrel has a name of a different goddess, which I think it gives the wine the essence of that goddess, that energy and the power of them. I have recently started incorporating Sanskrit mantra chanting in the cellar as well, because everything, including our voice and our intention and everything that you can visually see and can't see, is made up of vibration. So being able to infuse the wines with this energy is something that I don't know if it's placebo. I don't know if maybe it's just me in my mind thinking that I'm infusing them, but regardless of what it is, just knowing that it's bringing me joy and making my journey so much more meaningful. It just has, rippled into this movement that I feel that a lot of people are really following and have been very open and perceptive with the concept that I am introducing to them. And you'd be surprised of how many people come in here to do crystal pairings, which is something that I offer as an experience here in the tasting room.
Oh, wow. So you have a crystal for each wine.
Yes, each wine has a crystal pairing attached to it, in which I basically, and how that happened was, I know that I'm doing all these things energetically behind closed doors. And yeah, I advertise it, but people don't get to see that. And once I was going to open the tasting room, I talked to my boyfriend and I said, can I pair my wines with crystals? And he said, it's your brand, you can do whatever you want. And I was like, say no more. And so I found this awesome crystal. I call him my crystal dealer. His name is David, and I found him, and it just made it easier for me to be able to acquire these crystals and be able to get them at a price that would be affordable for me, so that I could also make them affordable for people. And so what I do is I bring out the crystals for each of the wines, which I choose the crystal based on the vibe of the wine, and then I bring them in front of people when they're doing their tasting. I talk to them about the qualities of the crystal, how they relate to the wine, and how they can utilize them in their everyday lives. And then people take the crystals home with them. And so I feel like I'm providing this like mystical, magical experience for them, where it goes side in with not just, the spirituality, but also with mindfulness, which for me is a very essential part of my life, of how I see the world, and how I, again, continue to show up as a human being, but also as a winemaker. And, it just makes my journey so much more meaningful.
That is so beautiful. And it's so unique. And I think that is also like what draws a lot of people to you and your wines. I mean, how long have you been making wine?
My first vintage I produced in 2019.
Right. So, we're 4 years in-ish. Mm-hmm. And I mean, they're incredible. And I feel like you're always kind of sold out.
Yeah, it's sad, but it's something very positive, because of course I don't want to, be sitting on wine on inventory. But it's just such a blessing, honestly, to see the response of people and how they are always so excited every time I'm going to release a wine, or if I have a new wine, or if I change the crystals in the wine. They're like, what's the next crystal going to be? And then they come to me and share stories of how these crystals have helped them reach and manifest different things. I just feel almost like they come in and it's like they tell me about what's going on in their lives. I had this woman who was taking a test to be a registered nurse, and I was like, oh, you're studying for it? Here, take this crystal. And then later on she emailed me and she's like, I passed the test, I took the crystal with me, and I just really want to thank you. And it's so cute. I'm like, I didn't do anything. I think it's the intention that you're putting into what you're doing. I think the crystals are as a reminder of your purpose and your goal. And I'm so glad that I could be that, I could be a little like middle woman in there to help people reach their dreams, but it's all them putting the work in. So
oh my gosh. Would you say that your wine journey is similar to that? Like you put in an intention and then over time it became something? Would you mind walking us through that?
Yes, 100%. I do not have a formal education with winemaking, which for a long time I thought it was an impediment to being successful. I also felt, of course, a lot of us feel the imposter syndrome. I felt that people would not take me serious because I didn't have that degree. But to be quite honest, I feel like if you have a dream, whatever kind of dream it is, as long as you take the necessary steps in the way that is intentional, you will reach that no matter what it is. And I always remind people that we are so powerful, as human beings, we have so much power, and sometimes because of past ideas that were passed down to us through generations, we feel that we have these limitations, but these limitations exist here in our brain. Like they are what's keeping us from reaching that full potential. And so when you start seeing yourself as an unlimited human being with all these capabilities, I think that you can see boundaries, and limitations, or you can see all the possibilities that are out there. And so knowing that there's different ways, there's no one way of doing things, there's no one way of learning winemaking, there's no one way of making wine. When you see it that way, then the possibilities open, and then you choose whatever path you want to go through. You can, for winemaking, you could go to school, or you can learn through reading a book, which is doable. I learned through mentorship. I felt that I wanted that to be my path, not only because I would learn from experts, but also I was able to build community through these relationships, which is something that I always tell people. If you want to be successful, you can make the most amazing wine, but if you don't have a strategy and you don't have community, the wine's not going to sell itself. Like, you need to show up for other people, and then that in return will come back to you, and people will support you because of that.
Oh, that is so beautiful. I absolutely agree. And I have felt, I'm not a winemaker, but I felt the same effect in my career too, with just finding people and community, to kind of grow with. Speaking of community, I know that, you make your wine at a facility in Paso, and you were doing it with, or maybe you still are, with at another winery facility. Can you share a little bit more about, as an independent winemaker without a vineyard, right? You're buying grapes and sourcing grapes and then making your wine. How do you make that work as a small winery?
I do not have a physical winery myself. Although I do make all my wine. Sometimes people are like, who makes your wine? And I'm like, these hands. And so I do not have a physical winery for myself. And the way that I was able to create this relationship is through, I always wear my heart on my sleeve. So I feel like being able to be vulnerable about the things that you need and looking for solutions, it's the key, to getting things done. So in 2019, when I had the purpose of making my wine, I had purchased my grapes, and there was an issue at the place that I was supposed to make my wine. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm homeless with my grapes. What am I supposed to do? And so I reached out to the person who was helping me. I was paying them a fee to press my grapes, because it's for white wine, so I was going to press it. And I said, hey, do you know any place that I could make my wine at? Because I don't know what to do at this point. I have the grapes here, but this is not going to work out. What do I do? And he's like, let me make some calls. And I was like, okay. And then he said, you know what? We're going to make your dream come true. You're going to make your wine here. And this person didn't know me. First of all, but he saw the passion in me, and he saw how committed I was to this. So he made it happen, and not only did he open that door for me to allow me to make my wine there, but he actually became my mentor. He took me under his wing. He taught me most of what I know about winemaking, specifically white wine, and he continues to mentor me. I still, partner with him to do different things, and he's been so amazing. And I think that just shows the kind of support that this community brings to individuals like me as a whole. There's a lot of people who have started like me and who work in wineries. I think that the culture here in Paso, for the most part, is if you work at a winery and you want to make wine, that winery will support you and allow you to make the wine there. And so I made my wine at that place for 3 vintages, and then I've made my wine at my job the last 2 years. My wines are actually there at the moment. My babies, my barrels are there at my job, which is a small winery here in Paso Robles as well. It's called 7 Oxen. They have been super supportive from day one. I think that there's no threat or competition because we're making different wines. But even if we were, I feel like just the fact that they see the potential and the passion and the love for what I do, I think it's just a no-brainer for people to, just be open to helping others.
I think that's a really awesome thing about Paso Robles is the fact that it really is a community that everyone is willing to help each other out. And that's something we were kind of talking about yesterday. And, it really seems to create this beautiful, welcoming culture here. And I think you can even feel that as a consumer when you go to a winery. You just feel at ease. There's not this like pressure to buy cases or like buy wines, but you really connect with the owners and the winemakers here. And I've even found, if you ask for suggestions of places to go when you're visiting a winery, everyone is really willing to recommend others. And I just think that is so beautiful about the community here.
Yeah, I definitely feel that I came to the right place. I was not supposed to land in Paso. I was supposed to go up to Sonoma. That was my plan. And I had a boss at that time that just like really was so adamant about me coming to Paso, and it has been such a blessing. The atmosphere out here, like you mentioned, it's super casual, super chill. A lot of people that come in to, either my job or they come here, they come for the wine, but more than anything, I think they come for the people, because we end up catching up on like what's going on with our personal lives, and just, we have created friendships. And I think that's something that you won't see in other wine regions. I think that personal touch, and also a lot of the time when you go to a winery, there's a lot of very small wineries where when you walk in, it's very likely that you'll be, tasting the wine with a winemaker. It would be them that are gonna be pouring the wine and talking to them, talking to you about their story. And I think that's something that really makes this place so magical and so unique.
Absolutely, I agree. So Nancy, where do you get your grapes from? Where do you source them?
So I source them all from the Central Coast. For Ulloa Cellars, because I actually do have a sister label to Ulloa Cellars. Ulloa Cellars, most of the fruit comes from Etna Valley, which is down in San Luis Obispo. I source a lot of my grapes also from Santa Barbara County. Sometimes I have sourced fruit from Monterey County. And then what we're drinking right now, which is my 2022 Verdejo, is actually my only fruit that I source from Paso Robles, which makes it extra special. And you know what, I feel like I definitely have to go outside of this area because it gets so hot here that I have to go to places that it's cooler for the grapes to grow better. And also because these varieties are so obscure and so hard to find, I always end up going outside of the area to find them.
Yeah, that makes sense. And if you've been to Paso as a listener, it's definitely more of a red wine land. There are places where there are whites and many great whites, many Rhone grape varieties, but for the different grapes that you produce, the Verdejo, the Albarino, and what else do you do?
Pinot Blanc. We talked about the Semillon, Gewürztraminer. I also make. Yeah.
You need a cool climate for those, especially. Absolutely. Okay. Well, one other thing that I know is very important for you in your brand, and that is bringing in your culture. Can you share a little bit about that?
Definitely. So I was born in Mexico, in Guadalajara, Jalisco. Came to the States at the age of 12, and when I grew up, I became part of the hospitality industry, fine dining. That was my introduction to wine. I didn't grow up with wine around. My parents never drank wine. I didn't see anyone in my family drinking wine. They actually called vino anything that has alcohol, so it's cute for them to be like, oh, vino, and I'm like, that's not vino, that's vodka or something, I don't know. So to me, it's so important to be able to provide a place for people to learn about wine, for particularly the Latino community or underrepresented communities, because for me, personally, I do feel that that we have been excluded from the conversation, and not only that we have been excluded, but the wine industry sometimes uses a particular vocabulary that is very hard to understand for some people. And so that vocabulary, I think, brings a lot of, I would say, a lot of people feel intimidated to try wine because they don't know how to pronounce the grape variety, or they don't know what the right etiquette is. They don't want to sound dumb. And so my passion is to take terminology, the wine terminology, and breaking it down to the point where people can understand, and whether it is with the tasting experience, or actually something I love to translate to people, and translate not only to Spanish but translate in terms that could be understood. It's a winemaking process, and how the grapes are grown in a certain way and how that affects the wine. The perfect person that I would say I have to be able to test out this translation or this knowledge is my dad. My mom won't touch wine. Like, she'll try it once in a while and she'll be like, ooh, this is too strong. But my dad, on the other hand, once I started to produce wine, he started to pick up this interest in wine, where every time they come and visit, because they don't live in the area, they come and visit, he's like, what are we gonna drink? And I'm like, oh, what do you want to drink? And he's like, I don't know, you tell me. And so one day, like, it's so cute, I tell people, one day, like, he came into the cellar, because when they come visit and I'm working during harvest, I'm like, I'm gonna put you to work, right? Like, gonna come in and help me with the fermentations or steaming barrels, that kind of work. So he was helping me. We were doing punch downs, and then he looks around the cellar and he's like, so where's the alcohol that you put to, for it to become wine? And I'm like, oh, that's not how it works, Dad. Let me explain this to you. And so it's been such a treat to be able to teach people like my parents, and some of the things that I've been doing to be able to achieve this. First, I started with dressing the part, so wearing traditional Mexican attire to events, and with my marketing, so that people could see the image and be like, she's Mexican and she's making wine. I think maybe we can buy her wine, to support her. But then they'll be learning. And then from there, I started pairing my wines with Mexican cuisine, which is not very commonly done. And then another tactic that I started using was the language, right? So with my marketing and social media, I talk, in my social media, I think I get a little witchy or metaphysical. So I started to do that in Spanish, like showing content in Spanish that had to do with metaphysical stuff. And it was resonating with people. And the last thing that I just recently incorporated into the experience here in the tasting room is translating the whole menu into Spanish. So that's something that I'm doing, because I was like, I can offer a tasting in Spanish, but if they're reading it and everything's in English, like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, I need to, if I'm gonna do it, I have to do it right. And so that is my next challenge, to be able to do the tastings in Spanish, because even though I was born in Mexico, I still, like, sometimes, I feel like I don't pronounce everything right in Spanish. And when it comes to the tasting experience, the translation is not a direct translation. There's a completely different language that encompasses wine terminology. And so that is my next challenge, I would say. And I'm really, I'm a little scared, but very excited to be able to just, like, get familiar with it, to, like, be able to do it right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. And I know you've also written articles for the Somm Journal about this. Is there anything from that article in particular, or a particular idea that you feel like you really want to share and make sure is said?
Yeah, definitely. So the article that I wrote was for the tasting panel. And when they reached out to me to see if I was interested in writing, I was like, I'm not a good writer. Like I feel so self-conscious about writing something, because I feel like I applied to go to grad school, and my writing was not the best, so I always felt that was why I didn't get into grad school, although the universe had a different plan for me that I didn't know at that time, so I wouldn't be making wine at this point, which is, like, the biggest blessing for me. But when they approached me, I was like, what do I talk about? They're like, well, what do you want to talk about? And I was like, I think I would want to talk about marketing to the Latino community. And they're like, okay, let's do it. And I was like, okay. So I started doing research and trying to figure out what kind of things I would talk about. So I did share that one of the things that is super important is being able to incorporate the language. Another thing would be to incorporate the values that people in the Latino community have, whether it is, or work ethic, or being an immigrant, or just family being such a strong foundation to that, just drives everything that we do. And then the last thing I said is, like, if you want to market to the Latino community, you gotta hire Latinos. You gotta hire them to be part of your team so you can have a better understanding of what you need to do to cater to this community. And so it was super well received, and to be quite honest, even though I was so scared, like, it really showed me how capable I was to write, and I realized, like, when it comes to things that I love and care about, it's actually a lot easier to write. And then also it has brought so many opportunities my way, whether it is to do public speaking. I actually got invited to go to a beverage conference in Brooklyn, New York. I had never been to New York, and so I was able to travel out there to be a panelist to talk about the things that people can do to cater to this, to market to the Latino community. And just, lately it just, now people are reaching out to me and being like, okay, you're Mexican, we want to pour your wine, and represent and have that, diversity in our program. So, honestly, like, it just, everything has been a blessing, and I'm so excited to receive all the support.
Well, major congratulations, and I am sure that things are just going to keep growing, and there's going to be so many more amazing opportunities coming down the line. Okay, so we are sipping on your Verdejo right now. Can you tell us a little bit about the goddess that is assigned to this label and this wine, and the flavor profile that you were hoping to get out of this wine?
Definitely. So each of my labels pays tribute to a different goddess or feminine energy, or someone in my life that I love and care about. So my Verdejo, it's a tribute to my mom. She is a goddess, so yes, you were right, she is a goddess. And this baby I'm sourcing from Paso Robles. Is the only Paso Robles fruit that I get for this project. I made this baby in 100% stainless steel because Paso gets so hot that it starts losing, the fruit starts losing acid. So for me, it's so important to have that acid component in my wines, and all of my wines. And this baby definitely has like some nice herbaceous tones, a little bit of apple, and a little salinity. And this baby is paired with clear quartz, which is a stone that it's utilized to provide focus and clarity, and it's also really amazing to expand a feeling of peace and ease. And I would say at the moment, my favorite crystal pairing, it's for my Semillon. My Semillon I'm pairing with a stone called blue calcite, which is actually sourced. Most of the blue calcite that you ever find is going to be sourced from Mexico, just like me. And this stone, it's utilized to balance and amplify your voice, whether it is and amplifying. A lot of people, I have couples that come in and then the husband's like, she does not need this, she's already loud. And I'm like, it's not necessarily to be loud, but to be more assertive with being able to place boundaries and to ask for what you need. I feel like specifically for us women, it's very hard sometimes to be vocal about things that we want, whether it's in a relationship or at your job or even with friendships. I think that it's so important to be able to voice your needs and what you stand for. And then, so that's one of the really awesome qualities that I love about the stone. But another quality that I just recently found out about the stone is that it has the ability to transmutate energy. So it acts as a filter for any kind of energy coming into your realm, and it turns it into positive energy. So that's why I love this stone so much.
I think everyone needs that stone and that pairing.
We all need that. I mean, and paired with the Semillon, I mean, that can't go wrong, right? So
awesome. Well, Nancy, thank you so much for being here. And it's just been such a pleasure chatting with you. And before we close out, usually we play a little game at the end of each episode. It's usually like a movie or a song pairing with a wine, but obviously you know the crystals. So you've shared 2 great pairings, but rapid fire, what are your other favorite pairings that you offer at your winery?
Well, one of the awesome pairings that I offer here is the music. I realized that once having this space, I could talk about whatever I want and play whatever music I want. And I'm a big fan of Karol G, who is a reggaeton Latina artist. She's very powerful. She just had the most amazing year ever. She was all over the place. And so playing her music here in the tasting room paired with the wines, I feel like it's very empowering, not only because I'm able to do exactly what I want to do, but it also gives people an idea of like what the vibe of my life is. So I would say, along with all the crystals, the music, being able to stay true and do things that bring you joy is so important. So shout out to Karol G.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much, man. We got crystals and music pairing. This was quite a game. I love it. All right. Well, Nancy, just again, it's been such a pleasure. And I think from me and everyone here listening, thank you so much for your time and for your knowledge and for just sitting down and bringing something so new to the wine space. I think that is something that sets you apart and makes me excited to see where you're going to go. So where can people follow along with you to see how you're doing and to get some of your wines?
So I think the place that I'm most active at, it's on Instagram. And my handle on Instagram, it's Ulloa Cellars, ULLOA CELLARS. My personal handle is at enophile.babe. And then my website, the easiest way to get to it is latinawinemaker.com. So check me out there. Send me a message. Say hello if you heard this podcast episode. I would love to hear from you. If you ever have any questions about crystals, or if you want to know what crystal is paired best with a vibe or a wine or anything, please hit me up. I love communicating with people and sharing the knowledge and the magic, and I just cannot wait to host you in my tasting room. Come visit me. Come experience the magic.
Yes. Well, thank you, Nancy, and cheers.
Thanks for listening to a new episode of Wine Soundtrack USA. For details and updates, visit our website, winesoundtrack.com.